I'm Dean, I'm the dad.
I'm Laura, I'm the mom.
And I'm Krysta, I'm the daughter.
And together we are Family Plot. Well, that worked out very nicely. How are you two ladies doing? Yes, yes, just like 2 weeks ago for me, you're about to complete a trip around the sun.
Yes, I am.
As of tomorrow, when I drop this episode, in fact.
Yes, sir.
You turn a lovely 29.
Sure, we'll go with that answer. I'm not sure how that works out, considering we have a 20-year-old at home. But if you say so, dear.
She's turning like...
You know, this episode's all about time.
I appreciate that. 45, but you're right. This is an episode about time travel, so I guess that is possible.
Exactly.
No, I thought it was 43.
No, 45.
29.
44 last year?
Wow, there's so much confusion about my date of it, about my age right now.
I love you so much.
I love you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, you still think I'm 6. Anyway.
You could have had me open a present on the podcast, because it would have been like opening it on my birthday, because the podcast is going to drop on my birthday. But
there's 2 of them in there.
No, I'm not. No.
I can go grab them.
No.
One.
Yeah, go grab one.
Yay!
We can have her open a present. Yeah,
you doing?
You brought it up.
You suggested it.
I was just, it was.
Krysta, on the...
Yeah, now we sent Krysta off on a wild goose chase.
On what?
The 2 boxes by the dirty clothes.
There are no dirty clothes. I just did all the laundry today.
You knew what I was talking. I knew what he was talking about, though.
You meant by the hamper. There were no dirty clothes. Okay. She wants me to open this one. Is this one okay?
I don't care.
I don't
I'll
know.
go get you scissors.
Okay, so I'm opening a present, I guess. But I'm opening a present in the future, because the podcast is going to drop on my actual birthday. Right?
Right. So this is like time travel present opening.
Time travel, sort of.
Right. It's like time travel present opening.
So it's very...
It's beautiful.
It's very show appropriate.
Yes. Very show appropriate.
Very show appropriate.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday to me.
Somebody sent you plastic bags full of air.
Yay, plastic bags full of air.
That's not much of a present.
Favorite. Oh, honey, you shouldn't have.
I shouldn't have what?
Got me plastic bags full of air. Oh, look, this is the one from you. I love you from your guy. That would be Dean. He's the dad.
Yes.
I know what you got. You're going to love this.
Okay. All right. I'm a little scared now.
No. You shouldn't say.
Man, they really...
Here, I got you.
Them Amazon folks, they're
Okay.
very...
Give it.
It's my present.
I wanted to help.
I got it. It's lights. What did you get me? Ah, it's a new cup.
It's a bear cup.
Yay, it's a bear cup. I'm so cute. cute.
Bear cup.
He was on your thing.
He was on my thing. He's been on my thing for quite some time.
I
like him.
I did not know that.
Yes, he's been on my team. He's been on my list for, gosh, over a year. Here.
That's my hair.
So I will take a picture of my bear cup.
And put it on Twitter.
And when you drop the episode, if you would like, you can use the picture of my bear cup for the episode because he is a time travel gift.
Yay!
He's adorable. He's a time traveling bear.
It is cute.
Isn't that adorable?
If anyone else touches it, you will.
I probably will
break their
not
arms.
use it for much drinking. Maybe
Keep stuff in it.
maybe some booze every now and then because it looks like he'd be a really nice
Booze bear.
cocktail glass.
Booze bear.
Booze bear.
I call it the booze bear.
A booze bear. I certainly don't want, your siblings to get a hold of him because he is glass.
Yep. And they would drop it because that's what they do.
Well, thank you, sweetheart. He is adorable.
Well, I just try to get you things that you like, and Amazon, you made her wish list, so I can just go check on it and go, she doesn't have this. I'll get
That
this.
is true. That is true. He's so cute.
How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet that his head might explode soon?
His head will exactly why. See, and it says he can be used for coffee, but I
don't trust that. Not with
I
glass.
don't either. Juice maybe, or like I said, alcohol, but not
Alcohol.
Yes.
I like you more than since I discovered alcohol. That's a quote from the Bare Naked Ladies.
Yes.
They're a band.
Yes.
Love you
I'm
like an
aware.
alcoholic from the taxpayer.
I am aware. All right. Well, thank you, sweetheart. That's adorable. That is adorable.
Well, as long as it's not terrible.
It's definitely not terrible.
It's a gerbil.
So now that we have done the obligatory present opening, and I couldn't do that on my birthday episode because I'd already gotten my present, which was a new PlayStation PS4.
It was beautiful.
Which was beautiful and wonderful, and I liked it a lot. All right. So just a few things to open up. One, if you want to help donate to the show so I can get better presents for my lady, you can donate through Patreon. There's 3 different groups. There's Team Podcast, Team Bay, which is Laura's, and it all goes to the show in one way or another. And there's different things you can get. There's different levels. It's a monthly thing. You could also go to Buy Me a Coffee, which is a one-time donation. Either way, whatever you want to do, that's fine. More importantly, though, is you can share the show on social media. And in fact, if you enjoy the show, we ask you to do that. If you don't enjoy the show, we ask you to keep it to yourself. Also want to welcome all the listeners, both new and old, to the show. And with that out of the way, let's talk about what this week's episode is all about. 2 women visiting Paris are suddenly catapulted into the past, witnessing a day from a century before. 2 couples traveling to Spain stop at a hotel only to discover a hotel literally right out of the past. A pilot flies over a closed airbase only to see it staffed by men in strange uniforms and tending to strange planes. Planes and uniforms that won't exist for at least 4 years. Stories like these and more abound. So join us tonight as we seek the keys to time travel. But first, Krysta has facts.
Hello, welcome back to the Fact Corner. How's everyone doing today?
Doing good.
I'm great, my Krysta.
That's great.
So what are your facts this week?
No one does that?
Tony the Tiger? That's
No,
great.
Grr.
The bear. Oh, I get it now. I'm sorry. I was slow. You're right. That was something I learned as a stand-up comic. It's never is not from. Yes, it does. It does hurt your heart. It's almost like having a finger cut off when you do a joke and it doesn't land. It's that painful. What? It is. I have it to base against a trick that Penn and Teller did. Penn told jokes, and when they didn't land, Teller would do things to him to simulate the pain he felt on an emotional level, on a physical level. And one of the things was lop off 2 fingers. Now, I don't think he really lopped off 2 fingers because I've seen Penn since then, and he had all 10 fingers. But, well, they are magicians. These things they can do.
Okay, so I'm a liar. They're not really surprise. That's a surprise, honestly. But, there are facts that one of these two suggested me. I don't know who. Anyway,
I think anything that was suggested this time is bad.
Well, thank you, Dad, for the Doctor Who fact suggestion.
Yeah, you're doing Doctor Who facts?
Yeah.
Yay!
Because my ukulele teacher, being the cool teacher she is, likes Doctor Who as well. She has the time traveling box everywhere in her room.
The TARDIS. That's the time traveling box. TARDIS.
Yeah. She has that everywhere. She even has it on one of those palm trees. She has it on a fake palm tree in her room. And she also has it drawn, and she has a magnet of it. She's a good teacher. I love her.
Do you know what TARDIS stands for? Or is that one of your facts? Because I don't want to give it away if it's one of your facts.
No.
It stands for time and relative dimensions in space.
I'm pretty sure that's in the show, isn't it?
Yeah, they say it all the time. But the abbreviation for that is TARDIS.
Very nice. TARDIS sauce. Alright, let's get into this, shall we?
Absolutely.
Put my drawing stuff down real quick.
Oh no, Krysta's going to stop drawing. This is going to get odd. It's going to get weird.
We're already all weird.
That's very true.
It is okay. I know that wasn't very funny, but I just Doctor Who was created as a kids series, though it certainly maintains plenty of pint-sized fans to this day. The original concept for Doctor Who was specifically an educational program aimed at teaching kids about science and history. In an interview with the BBC, Boris listen?
Let me see it.
Huss.
Hussein? Yeah.
Hussein, who at the age of 24 directed the very first episode of Doctor Who, said that the series was meant to be educational for kids. We were trying to educate kids about certain things about the human condition.
I did not know that. I thought it was just a science fiction show. I didn't think it was aimed at kids. Cool.
Very good. Very nice.
Fact number 2. Wow, we're all learning new things today. I got 100% on my self-test today, on my self-check point.
Yay.
Great job.
Now, is this about prison cells or
No.
Cells in science?
Science cells.
Oh, okay, cool.
I took down all my notes and I wrote them. If science started talking about prison cells, I'd cry.
Okay.
I don't want to cry. Anyway. The Doctor was partially inspired by Sherlock Holmes. As one of the most adapted literary characters of all time, it's hardly surprising that the Doctor shares a few characteristics with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's famed detective. According to the BBC, Doctor Who was partially inspired by Sherlock Holmes, and both the 4th and 11th Doctors have even dressed up as him.
Very cool.
Yep, I can remember both instances, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, I can see that, because Holmes knows more than anybody in the room. He's kind of rude to people, the way the Doctor can be. But he's also like, he's definitely on the side of good, but he's not always nice to the people he talks to.
Yeah, that is true.
Fact number 3. The Doctor didn't become a Time Lord until 1969. Well, even the most casual of Doctor Who fans can probably tell you that the Doctor is a Time Lord, an ancient alien who's a species that has the power to travel through time. The term itself wasn't actually used until the series' sixth season episode, The War Games, his home planet of Gallifrey wasn't mentioned by name until 1973.
Wow.
Cool. That's interesting.
It is.
I'm learning.
You do.
You go, Krysta. You go. Woo, Krysta.
I'm doing it.
Fact number 4. Now, this is our second to last fact, so...
They never last long enough. Kind of like lunches at work.
kind of like lunches at school, honestly.
That's true.
That too. 35 facts. 35 facts is what we have here.
Wow.
But I'm only doing 5 of them.
Okay.
Because I'm mean and upsetting to the population.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You just want to leave us hanging. We see how you are.
Yeah, I know. I'm so mean.
Fact number 4.
Yeah, sorry, I was watching Dad steal a walrus, or was it a walrus?
Yes, it was a walrus.
From Brownie.
I've seen.
And it was just like, here, you might need this.
I think that's pretty impressive that Brownie could pick up a walrus. He's kind of a small dog.
No! It's like a toy walrus.
It's one of
I'm
the...
impressed that Dad could pick up a walrus. I'd be impressed if Dad could pick up a walrus and take it from Brownie.
There you go, that too. Anyway, you were saying.
Anyway, sorry.
You're fine.
The Doctor may or may not be a doctor. Is the Doctor really a doctor? According to the second Doctor, played by Patrick
Troughton.
The answer is yes, or at least he thinks so. In season 4, episode The Moon Base, the Doctor's companion, Polly, asked what his audiences have been wondering for years. Are you a medical doctor? To which the Doctor replies, yes, I think I was. I was once, Polly. I think I took a degree once in Glasgow in 1888, I think.
Well, there you go.
Fact number 5. The first Doctor's health problems led to regeneration concept. William Hartnell, who played
William Hartnell was the first Doctor.
Yeah. Who played the first Doctor from 1963 to 1966, was having health problems toward the end of his run on the series. To ensure that the show could go on without its original star, and to avoid enraging viewers who had come to love Cardinal, the showrunners decided that instead they would make the ability to regenerate be a part of the Doctor's technology.
Cool.
Yay.
And unfortunately, that's the end of our facts.
Aww.
Aw, but they were great facts, and you even taught Dad some things.
Yeah, they were amazing facts. I'm glad you did it.
But before we're done here, I'd like to give out a thanks to Mental Floss because you have saved my butt multiple times when it comes to facts.
Woo, Mental Floss.
Yay, Mental Floss.
You. And also thanks to Jennifer M. Wood to making these facts. Wonderful person.
Or at least listing them, not necessarily making them.
Oh yeah, facts are supposed to be facts. Ew, Brownie. He's got a double chin.
Well, so does Noelle, but we don't judge.
Yeah.
But I judge the dog because it's funny.
It is kind of funny to judge the dog because he's so...
I'm talking about more the way he was sitting. He was
He's so crazy lovey, but at the same time, he's also so crazy. So, yeah.
Very crazy.
All right. Wait, almost forgot. Need some more claps for my Krysta.
Don't forget Crystal's applause, Dad. Jeez.
Thank you.
So, let's talk time travel. Now, I will say most of the things we discuss in this episode are technically time slips, not time travel.
Fair enough.
The difference being time slips are sort of accidental leaps through time, whereas a time travel is a meant thing.
Yeah, it's meant to happen.
And the only person I have found who claims to have traveled in time is John Titor, Titor. And since he turned up on an episode of Coast to Coast, and he faxed in a letter about his time travel, there's just a lot of stuff that doesn't add up about the guy. John Titor claimed that he was from the year 2036 or 2034, and that they couldn't get past the year 2056, that in the future, like, time ends at that point. Like there's a brick wall. And so he had been sent back in time to get, of all things, an Apple 5100 computer from 1978. So, or 73, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, long story short, he needed to get an Apple computer because it had features that were later taken out, and they needed those features. Which is weird because you'd think a future society could just replicate ancient technology like that. But
one would think.
Anyway, so, and he basically said that the time travel was discovered by CERN in the future because they were using a particle collider, and they basically created two singularities that they revolved around each other.
They crossed the streams, didn't they?
They crossed the streams, and it let them move forward and back in time. But there's no evidence to corroborate this. In fact, John Titor has never been seen. He's only appeared on the internet message boards and in faxes. So,
well, you know,
let's not take any.
And everybody knows that faxes are the communications of the future, right?
Well, you know, the Doctor uses them so often. So, you know, long story short, John Titor, I have to say, I feel a bit skeptical about him. Quite a bit, actually.
Just a little.
I'm fairly skeptical about John Titor and his time traveling. In fact, at one point, he would post on the internet if anybody had, like, a very specific item, and I guess it's part of a time machine, and I don't know, maybe he thought other people were time traveling and might have it so he could repair his time machine and take his Apple computer home, but I don't know. It's all just so weird. Nah. That's the time traveler. Let's talk about time slips. Now, this is traveling in time, but it's unplanned travels. Now, the first thing we're going to discuss is the Moberly Jourdain Incident. I read about this when I was very young. It was in like a Scholastic magazine, but an older one. It was one for like teenagers as opposed to school-age kids.
Fair enough.
Let's discuss this. Annie Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain were teachers from England. Now, this was roughly 1911.
Mm-hmm.
And because...
For a minute.
Yeah. And because they had both been hired by the same girls' school, were encouraged to spend time together and get to know one another. Well, Eleanor maintained an apartment in Paris, which she frequented to teach English to rich Parisian girls. So the two decided to visit Paris. Now, Moberly and Jourdain recounted they had decided to visit the Palace of Versailles as part of several...
As you do.
As you do, as part of several trips around Paris. Detailing how on 10th of August in 1901, they traveled by train to Versailles. They remembered not thinking much of the palace after touring it, so they decided to take a walk through the gardens to the Petit Trianon. But after reaching the Grand Trianon, found it was closed to the public. Now, they recollected traveling with a Baedeker guidebook, but said they became lost after missing the turn for the main avenue, Allée de Trianon, which a Trianon is a villa, specifically a villa on a larger estate. And what not a lot of people know is that Marie Antoinette had herself basically a little playhouse at the Palace of Versailles, where she would go and play peasant.
Huh.
And live at this little house with her friends around, and they would pretend to be peasants and do peasanty things, I guess. Or their idea of peasanty things, which probably was pretty off, because Marie Antoinette was quite the spender. She's part of the reason that...
Let there be cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, let them eat cake even though they were starving, yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's because she didn't understand.
Yeah, sure.
When they told her the citizens were out of bread to eat, she said, well, let them eat cake, because she was like, well, if they're out of bread, have them eat something else. So, anyway, they missed the Allée de Trianon and entered a lane where they bypassed their destination. Moberly reported that she noticed a woman shaking a white cloth out a window, while Jourdain recalled noticing an old deserted farmhouse outside of which was an old plow. At this point, they described a feeling of oppression and dreariness coming over them, after which men who were dressed as very dignified officials in long grayish-green coats with small three-colored hats saw them wandering along the grounds. Jourdain recalled that she noticed a cottage with a woman holding out a jug to a girl in the doorway, describing it as a living picture, or as was called at the time, a tableau vivant, much like Madame Tussauds waxworks.
Okay.
Moberly did not notice the cottage, but remembered that she felt the atmosphere change. She wrote, everything suddenly looked unnatural, therefore unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like wood worked in tapestry. There were no effects of light and shade, and no wind stirred the trees. Now, they ran into a rather evil-looking gentleman who pointed them the way out. As they were walking to the edge of the wood near the Temple de l'Amour, which is Temple of Love, in case you're wondering.
Right.
According to Moberly, this guy, his appearance was most repulsive, and his complexion was dark and rough. The man slowly turned his face, which was marked by smallpox, and the expression was evil and yet unseeing, as though he wasn't looking at them. And he gave them directions to get out of the area they were in. Now, as they were walking, Jourdain saw a woman sitting on the grass, and she swore that if it was not Marie Antoinette, it was a twin. She had been reincarnated. But her companion saw the woman, but didn't notice her. I mean, like saw her out of the corner of her eye, but didn't notice what she looked like.
Right. It didn't strike her that it was somebody famous or somebody from history. I get that.
Right. So, and eventually they came up the back way to Versailles and joined another party of visitors that were roaming the palace. So then they returned to Jourdain's apartment, and they didn't think much about what had happened to them at that point. It was only later when they began discussing it and comparing their notes that they felt like
they had really experienced something.
Right. They had been there towards the end of near the fall of Versailles, near the beginning of the French Revolution there. And there are those who have argued against it. In fact, one person was like, one person publishing a few years later was like, well, I've got an explanation for this. There's a rather famous fellow at the time who would set up living tableaus, these living pictures. But he would get together a bunch of cross-dressers to gather at places and create historic scenes. And that the guy who brought forward this theory also said, and that would explain why they didn't have a good reaction to it, because cross-dressing was quite unusual in 1901. And so to see it, even if you didn't realize that's what's going on, he felt like they would be negatively influenced by the subconscious suggestion that things weren't right. Now, it's actually a fairly famous account, and there are those who believe it and those who don't. Again, all we really have is Moberly and Jourdain's descriptions. We do know that the pockmarked gentleman looks a lot like the description given of Comte de Vendry, who is suggested as a candidate for the man with the pockmarked face and the evil expression. So, did they see the past? We don't know, but we'll talk more about that at the end. So, let's talk about another time slip. Now, the central character here is a guy that uses the alias, or what I believe is an alias, of Mr. Squirrel, because I can't imagine there actually being someone with the last name Squirrel that isn't a squirrel.
Great. So now we're going to have listeners who are named Squirrel that you think.
Well, if your last name is Squirrel, let me know, that, and I will gladly take back what I said.
Okay.
Now, I found this story in like 5 different places, couldn't find the first name of the guy. And that worries me, because when you lose details like that, especially with a last name like Squirrel, boy, I'm hard-pressed to believe you. So, this was in 1978. Mr. Squirrel is in a stationery shop, and he sees these envelopes. Now, they're old envelopes, or old style envelopes. He likes them very much. He buys them. He notices the gal at the counter is in Edwardian period clothing. Pays for his envelopes, and he leaves. Well, he comes back the next day, only to find a different person working the counter. He asks about the gal that he saw the day before. Nobody with that description works there. And the company that makes the envelopes had been out of business for over a decade.
If we're to believe that a man named Squirrel bought some envelope from an Edwardian shop.
Well, and that's the thing, is that those who saw the envelopes, and I guess there are a few, said they exist. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I almost didn't include it just because it's just, it's so I don't know.
Yeah, that one sounds like the kind of story you tell at a party and it just kind of gets out of control.
Kinda, yeah. So let's talk about spending a night at an old hotel. I don't think this is going to be that sort of story, but whatever. This story goes back to the year 1979, when two couples, Jeff and Pauline Simpson and Len and Cynthia Gisby, were holidaying in France. They were actually on their way to Spain, but they were driving through France. One evening, driving through Montélimar, a place in southeastern France, they were looking for a hotel to stay in. Even after traveling for hours, they could not find a vacancy at a single hotel. They turned down a cobbled street and they came across a building mentioning an inn. The inn looked old-fashioned and unsettled. There was only basic furniture in the lobby. Their windows contained no glass panes, and the place had no elevators or phones. But the two couples ate their dinner and went up to bed. The next morning, they awoke to have breakfast and noticed most of the people in the inn's dining area appeared to be in period costumes, and no one could tell them how to get back to the interstate, seeming not to know what it was or even what a motor car was. The couples paid a minimal bill, like so little it surprised them, and they left. Now, returning from Spain 2 weeks later, they were completely unable to locate the inn to stay there again. In fact, try as they might, they were never able to locate the inn again.
Now that one's pretty cool.
See, I like that one as much as I like the teachers.
The other historical, the teachers.
Yeah, because those are moments to me, you know, and it boy. Let's take a minute for a word from our sponsors, and then we'll come back with some more timey-wimey stuff.
Sure.
To quote the good doctor. David Tennant's still my favorite. I'm just saying. Anyway, all right. Let's take a moment for a word from our sponsors. Hey, hon, how do you feel?
I feel sponsored.
Yay! All right. Let's talk about Sir Victor Goddard and his strange flight. Now, before we get into this, we got to know a little bit about Victor Goddard. One day he would be knighted and appointed the Air Marshal of the Royal Air Force. But this story takes place well before that. In 1935, Goddard was flying a Hawker Hart biplane from Edinburgh, Scotland, to his home in Andover, England. As he flew over a place called Drem, he remembered it had once been a training airfield, and he overflew the old field several times, taking in the dilapidated buildings, the overgrown walkways, and cows wandering across the crumbling blacktop. In short, the very picture of some place that had been abandoned and left to grow over. Satisfying himself that the airfield was indeed a derelict, he flew on, almost immediately encountering a strange storm. The clouds and sky turned a strange, dirty brown color, and he was pelted with rains and high winds that almost made him crash his plane. He was able to finally right himself when he suddenly found himself in perfect sunny blue sky. He had been turned around by the storm to realize he was flying over Drem once more. This time, however, He noticed the blacktop had been resurfaced and the structure seemed brand new. There were 4 planes on the runway, all yellow. At the time, England did not have yellow planes. There were biplanes of a style he was familiar with, and the 4th was a monoplane he had never seen before. The mechanics all wore blue coveralls, which at the time, the Royal Air Force mechanics wore brown coveralls. He overflew the base a number of times, but the men on the ground never seemed to notice him. He turned around and got back on course once more, encountering the odd storm. When he got through it once more, he made it to Andover without further incident. Now, in 1939, the base at Drem was reopened. RAF planes were painted yellow in that year. The RAF switched the mechanic coveralls from brown to blue in that year. Further, 1939 was the first year the monoplane that Goddard described was used ever. So it was likely that somehow he had been taken 4 years into the future to at least 1939. As do I. So I'm going to include this last one because it's there's a creepy postscript to it, and I
know how much you love those.
Yes. So in 1988, Strange Magazine published a story which they claimed was based on a true event that took place on October 20th, 1969. 2 business associates were traveling from a small town in Louisiana towards Lafayette along the almost traffic-free Highway 167. At some point, they noticed a retro-looking turtleback type of car ahead of them, which had a license plate with the year 1940 on it. What they observed when they shortened the distance between the cars was that the woman behind the wheel was also dressed in 1940-style clothing. Driving alongside the vintage car, they could see there was a small girl on the passenger seat next to her, and the woman had an expression of panic written over her face. They gestured at her to pull over so that they could help her. She nodded approvingly and began the maneuver of pulling over. The 2 businessmen passed slowly by her, but when they halted on the side of the road and turned to look at the other vehicle, it was nowhere to be seen. The car with the scared woman and the child had simply vanished into thin air. Even in an even more mysterious twist, papers from the 1940s chronicled the disappearance of a mother and daughter who had been last seen driving on Highway 167. So,
ghosts are okay. Well, that one, see, that one seems almost more like a haunting than
time travel, yeah.
Time travel.
Yeah.
I mean, not to be nitpicky, but...
And I see that, but at the same time, they interacted with a woman from 20 years earlier, and
I mean, how many haunting stories have we told about people interacting with people from years and
behind?
A century. I mean, just last week we were talking about Ramsden and...
Yeah, true, but I guess the thing for me is
where did the car go?
The thing is, for me, is that when they drive by them, this lady looks panicked. Her daughter looks panicked.
Uh-huh.
There
was nothing on the road for them to be panicked of, right?
Right.
So, very easily could have, I mean, and I guess it's just as easily can be a time travel thing. I don't necessarily feel like this one specifically fits with the other ones, but I can see where you're going with it.
Okay, I included it on the odd, just because it's an odd story. And because it does touch on time travel And it makes me wonder if there's a mother and daughter out there from 1940 that are somehow trapped wandering through time.
Fair enough. That is fair. And that's why I asked. Because...
Now, I was able to find another couple of stories, but like one of them was a story that the guys at Graveyard Tales had used to talk about some hauntings at the caverns in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I want to say it's Carlsbad Caverns. And that one of the stories they told didn't seem like a haunting, but more like a time slip, which I agree with. But since that's the only place I've heard it, I didn't want to steal their thunder or come close to clipping something from them. So I left it out. But that's really the weird stories. Now, time travel appears a lot in popular culture, in movies, in books, you name it. I mean, we already discussed Doctor Who.
Of course.
If we didn't, I think all the Doctor Who fans would be screaming at us.
Then there's Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted are like the American Doctor Who's, except their TARDIS is a phone booth.
No, please don't compare the two.
And whereas the Doctor's very smart, they're very dumb. Now, Star Trek has a lot to do with time travel. I mean, heck, one of the movies, they went into our era in the past.
Well, yeah.
There's the movie Somewhere in Time, the Christopher Reeve movie, which was filmed on Mackinac Island, by the way. I don't know why I know that, but I do. Those of you who like Ron Silver and or Jean-Claude Van Damme, there's Time Cop. Now, I didn't have that on my list, but because I've not read the book.
The book is good, but also there's a movie.
A couple of movies.
Yeah.
Now, but one book I do want to include, and it's been made into a movie multiple occasions, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court.
There you go.
One of my favorite authors, too. Samuel L. Clemens, a.k.a. Mark Twain.
Absolutely.
Now, there's also H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, which has been also made into movies multiple times. There's the movie Looper, starring Bruce Willis and, what's the kid that played, Quantum Leap is another good show for time travel. Why can I not remember his name? We're talking
about that one show, that one movie that me and Mom watched.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Thank you. That's the guy. There's also The Time Traveler's Wife. And one of my favorite time travel movies, Time After Time, which features a pitched battle through time between H.G. Wells and Jack the Ripper, played wonderfully by not Donald Pleasance, but David Warnock. Anyway, yeah, great movie. That's just a handful. I'm sure you guys have added stuff I didn't have on my list, but that's just a handful. Time travel is a big deal in popular culture. And there are those who say that time travel is absolutely not possible, and there are those who say it absolutely is. And in fact, I have met at least 2 different Masons who claim the Masons own a time machine. So I don't know that I buy that, but I think if the Masons owned a time machine, the world would be a very different place. But that's just me. So, Krysta, after hearing everything about time travel, what do you think? What are your opinions? What are your thoughts?
My opinions and thoughts on time travel? I mean, yeah, believe whatever you want to believe. I mean, if you think time travel's real, I can sure as heck think that ghosts are real. That's my thing. Some people believe things that other people don't believe. And, you know, I support anyone that does believe this. And it's a good thought. And, yeah, I think maybe if someone tried, and if someone actually looked into things, and it's actually possible that, you know, with how much stuff that goes on today, and with how much that we've already learned, there is a possibility that in the future somebody can, you know, make a time machine, go back, do whatever the heck they want. Sure. Hopefully it doesn't go into the wrong hands, though.
Well,
so that's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say about this one.
Well, see, that brings up a slightly different point, because the Nazis built something that they called Der Glocke, which most people refer to it as the Nazi bell. And a lot of people think that the Nazi bell was a time machine that was never quite completed. But it's disappeared since, so who knows?
Well, my guess on that would be that it probably wasn't, or else, again, the world that we know would be a really different place.
So, what are your thoughts, hon?
I think that at this point in history, we know enough. So I'm going to be my ever positive yet trying to remain
open-minded?
Yeah, sure, open-minded. I mean, if time travel is a thing, if someone does figure it out, I think that they may know that they need to be really careful with it.
I hope, because if some dum-dum does that, that's not going to be good.
You know, that opens up a whole
portal?
It opens up a whole basket of possibilities and possible issues, and I mean, there's just so many.
Which is something that we already have enough of these days.
Yeah.
So many issues have gathered up, you know, among so many people, and it's just like, why don't you try to change it now instead of trying to go back into it?
At this point, okay, I think that it is possible. I think that occasionally the world opens up portals, little portals. I don't think time is perfect. I think chances are every once in a while a little temporal hiccup opens up somewhere. And chances are nobody's going to walk through it. What we have is a handful of accounts of the people who did.
Sure.
And it makes me wonder if some people have, and that hiccup stopped while they were there, which would explain some disappearances perhaps. But if that were the case, then why don't we have the opposite effect of a story of, hey, this person just appeared and then became...
Right.
And in fact, Michael Crichton wrote a book called Timeline that is about time travel. And it was actually made into a movie. But one of the characters is a scholar, a medieval scholar. And since they go back to medieval England, he winds up staying there and becoming a knight. And but I don't know. I guess for me, I believe time travel is possible. I believe time slips are definitely possible. Will we ever find time travel? I don't know. If some guy in a lab finds it, working by himself, maybe. If it's some sort of government lab, I don't think they'll tell us.
It's entirely possible.
They don't tell us a lot of things, honestly.
Well, yeah.
So to our listeners, thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the episode. Always want to reach out to Bill Barrett, the guy who does our theme music. And if you need music for a project, Bill's your guy. You can reach him via email at billberendt, and that's BEHRENDT, at sbcglobal.net. Also, I want to say thanks to Paige Elmore of Reverie True Crime for joining us on this, for doing our artwork. Thank you, Paige.
Thanks, Paige.
Also, thanks to Aaron Gnurk of the Big Dumb Fun Show for promoting us locally. Join our Facebook group, which, Family Plot Podcast on Facebook. It's easy to find. Follow us on Twitter, FamPlot Mom Laura, F Crystalline, and of course the podcast itself at plot_family. You can follow us on Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok, where you will find show-themed content. Join us next week as we will be joined by comedian Dale Hilton to discuss Vladimir Markov and the tiger.
Ooh, we get to talk about a tiger?
We get to talk about a tiger.
Whoa.
So, that's our show. Thank you.
Show. Bye.
Bye.